Alright, I'm going to make a video on how to build a lowering kit for a Kawasaki Vaquero 1700. What I've done some research online and read about some guys building a little bracket or taking Harley Davidson brackets and redesign them to make them work on this. So what I've got here, what I built is basically a left and a right side here. Drilled my holes through, welded those tabs on each side, so it's still a little warm, but basically it's going to mount like this on each side, and it'll catch here on the swing arm. The shock will mount back here on the back point. That bracket will bolt there. So I'll get another video here in just a second when I get one side put on and kind of show you, and I'll try to get maybe some dimensions on this if there's anybody else that wants to build one, because I know looking online they're shooting like $150 for those two little pieces of metal, and I think I got maybe 20 bucks maybe in it. So like I said, I'll do some dimensions, and I'm also going to try to show how much I've dropped it and what I've gained if it was worth messing with. So I'll let you guys know. Okay, got the spacers made and put on, and I'm gonna have to redo them. I messed up on my front bolt where I drilled through. I accidentally, well, I didn't pay attention that the shock itself, where it slides up on, is a little bigger diameter than the outside bolt. So when I drill my hole, I'm a little too close to the edge, so if I drill it out anymore, I'm not going to have much left. So I'm going to go back, rebuild them, make a few small changes, but right now where it sets, I've dropped a whole inch in the back, measuring from the back of the fender up. I think this thing's was at 11.5, and now I'm down to just under 10.5. So like I said, a whole inch drop in the rear. So I'm happy with that. That's quite a bit, just by swapping a mount point. So like I said, I'm gonna pull these back off and kind of redesign them a little bit and make another video and try to give some specs and stuff on them, and that way some others can maybe make them if they're interested. So anyway, I will be back. Alright, made some modifications to my bracket. There's the new one I got built, the template I made, and here's the original. So you can see quite a bit of changes. Actually, this bracket here is 3.5 inches long from end to end, 14 millimeter size of the bolt. I made that. That's 3/4 of an inch, that little piece on that's going to rest, and 14 millimeter bolt to go through to mount back on your shock. And these are, I'm trying to think what these, I think these are 2 1/4, I believe is what those ended up being. And as you can see, there it is, mounted on. It's actually not all the way down. I don't know how well you can kind of see back there. It's not all the way down because I got the bike lifted back up. But overall, when I've got it dropped down, measuring at the back of the fender here, I was 11.5 inches with the factory mount point, and dropping it down, it's setting it right at 9 inches. So pretty good drop. So I will give an update here in just a minute when I get everything put back together and kind of show you what the bike looks like. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to kind of show putting this side on. Basically, right here, this is a 14 millimeter bushing that's on for that shock. Slide the bracket up on there. That's what I was talking about, the spacer. Piece hits down on the swing arm, like keeps the shock from dropping past. So, and then I've got a bushing that goes on here, and that basically just pushes this out to where I don't have to stack a whole bunch of washers on there. And then your original washer, locking washer, and acorn nut on there. Snug it up just to where there's still still moves freely. I'll go ahead and mount the shock back up top, as well as lining it up down below. Sorry for the video there, and basically slide all this into place. Push up on there. Then once you got it in place, back with the original washer, lock washer, and acorn nut up top, and then down here on the bottom, I've actually just putting a 14mm nut and washer back on it. And that's basically it. And I will kind of give, like I said, make a video here in just a second with it all mounted up. Okay, sorry about the noise. Air compressor's running. Got everything mounted back on. One thing I noticed, I'm going to have to trim these bolts off just a little bit. This side a little more so than the other side, just because of the distance it sets out. The bag touches right here, so I'll have to trim these back. I might have to pull a spacer out on that one. This one here, actually, if I just trim the end of it off, we'll be in good shape. It's just barely touching right now. But as you can tell here on the back, I'm setting it about 9 inches. Right at about 9 inches. So from 11 and a half down to 9, and even if I stand the bike up, it's still something right there. So not too bad. But I'll get another video here in a second with the bags back on it and everything ready to go. All right. Sorry about the last video. I know the air compressor was running. Right here is my template I use, and like I said, this is 3.5 inches long. Lay it out here. The one thing that I'd recommend doing different on the template itself. Sorry about the video here. I'm trying to hold this in my hand and do it all. Like I said, it's right at 3.5 inches. Well, 3 3/4 is what it's actually at. And one thing I would do is I drilled a 14mm here in the back, and up here on the front I would go back just a little closer than what I did here. These two are setting at, they'd be roughly 2.5 inches apart, and I'd probably go back to about 2 1/4, just because on the left hand side of the bike that shock just barely touches the inside of the back, so I had to kind of adjust it just a little bit to make everything come out. The bolts I got are 2.5, and like the problem with these is the only ones I could find with a shank on it wasn't threaded all the way was this length. So like I said, I had to cut off, and I cut off probably probably a 1/2 inch, guessing. Well, there's one side, so it's probably, yeah, not quite a half. It's probably what I cut off both sides. So, but give kind of some more dimensions on this. I'm setting about 1 inch and 1 1/4 on that side, and then the tall point here is about 1 3/4, and I started that in at about 1 inch. So 1 inch and 2 inch. There you can see where I went up and down. And that basically just kind of where it sits down past that nut and gives a little more meat in the metal itself. But like I said, got it all mounted on there, and it's dropped at about oh, what would it be, 2.5 inches from 11.5 down to 9 inches in the back. So I'm really happy with that. But it didn't turn out too bad. If you have any questions, I'll try to help if anybody's interested in possibly making one. But kind of gives you a little bit of idea of the stance. But I know I'm right at 5'11", and this bike, it sits pretty high. I mean, even for me, it's you know, I didn't feel real comfortable sometimes whenever you stop at a stop sign. If you're kind of on uneven ground, you kind of have to tippy toe it a little bit. So this makes it, I mean, your feet are flat on the ground, no problem. So, but I like the stance. It rides good. I took it out, drove it down the road. There's no issues. Still smooth. I mean, didn't change anything other than the ride height a little bit. So, like I said, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe.